So I think you are not here for schnitzels, right? So we should actually start the show. And so welcome to the 137th edition of airhacks TV. And interestingly, the 37th, 100 episodes ago, was 8 years ago in April. So now, what I would like to start with, because I wanted to record a video, but I had no time. So last time, I think I already announced this ZMCP. And this is like zero-dependency MCP. And by the way, the zero, everything which starts with Z on my GitHub account ships with zero dependency. So the idea is just Java 21 and nothing else. And I forgot actually to mention one thing. It's actually cool. It's called ZWS, Zero Dependency Web Server, which I always use it for web component developers, development, for instance. Maybe next time I will show you this. And this is this ZMCP and full implementation which ships with prompts, resources, and tools. And you can integrate it to AI tools. And actually, I use it already. And it ships with code executor, link info tool, and file store tool. And I forgot actually the file store. And I have also two internal tools, which actually have access to the airhacks FM podcast feed to a JSON file. And this is like what happens. I have a static page generator which generates the podcast feed, and it uses JSON as an input. And the JSON is pretty simple. If you know the podcast, it is like title, description, and so forth. And I created a tool. MCP tool which has access to this. And what I describe here is you can use clean package, or Zibi is another tool which I show you briefly because there's a cool feature. I will misuse airhacks TV sometimes to show you new features because I can practice more, and then tomorrow I will or a little bit later I record a proper screencast, right? From Athens, Athena, what is it called, Athena. From Greece, Kevin Actos. So I think at least in Greece it's hot right now, I guess. Okay, with ZB you get a jar, and in order to install it on the Cloud desktop, for instance, you only have to register a shell script, and there is one. So what I did 10 minutes ago, I went black because I forgot to prepare exactly this. And it is behind the scenes. So this is Cloud Desktop, and the installation is in the developer. You can edit the config, and you have added the JSON, but basically what you only have to do is to add the ZMCP, and this is basically it. And it's a shell file, and what it does, it starts the Java process via stdio, and then goes to sleep. Okay, now, and this is Claude. And what we can do is, my first question is, I have to use my keyboard. What tools are installed? And and Claude will maybe the interesting part why I did it, because the ZMCP is implemented in very simple Java, pure Java, no Quarkus, nothing. So I have completely everything under control, so I can trust more what AI does. So because I can restrict access to whatever I like. This was the actual idea. So I can see there are the core tools. And I also forgot about that. So what I have is runtime info tool, and it returns a server runtime metrics. This is the runtime metrics from my ZMCP tool. Then link info tool, I can check links, for instance. File store tool. A little more interesting is Java code executor. And we have airhacks FM, episode search, list, and so forth. So I can now ask, what were the last episodes on airhacks? Let's say airhacks. Should be airhacks FM, but let's see what happens. And okay, and invokes the tool. This is actually, it invokes now the ZMCP, and this is actually and it says, okay, he found the 10 episodes, and AI-driven development, yeah, it's true, so these are the episodes. So now I can ask, what were the recent guests. And now it goes to airhacks and Maurice Naphthalene, Java generics 2 days ago is perfect. So what I have right now, I have the perfect app actually to ask about. I think there are lots of podcasts, 300. So I just implemented ZMCP and I can ask whatever I like. So which guests should I invite? Like this. This is a mix. Airhacks FM podcast. As you see, I'm not prepared at all. Yeah. And the interesting part, Emmanuel was there, Arun Gupta is invited, Holly is invited, Ron is invited, Brian Götz is invited. So I only rate Sank, interesting one. So as you can see, so this is live ZMCP. So you can say, okay, cool, but we can do better. So if you follow my shorts, I show some from time to time. I introduced JShell. So I implemented a ZMCP tool for JShell. This is my GitHub account. And what I can do is generate code for the calculation of something hard, 21 multiplied by 2, or doubled. Let's see. And as you can see, it picked my ZMCP code executor tool and generated Java code, which is dynamically executed in the background. And then, I clicked. This was not intended. Usually it says 42, but this is actually was not intended. We can do it again. Calculate, create code for calculation of 21 multiplied by 2 and store it in a file. Let's see. I never tried that. It didn't invoke the tool, so this is a pity. But it uses the, this was invoked the first time, and I can say, okay, allow once. And now it will store the operation write, file name calculation Java to calculation Java. And on my disk, now the file is available. So this is a short, brief demo just for you, the first time on the internet of ZMCP, how it interacts with Claude. And I have lots of internal tools which I use for automation, which is actually pretty cool. What I have to improve a bit is, okay, there's even an error. A small little tools which help me with automation. And no time to record a screencast, but you got an idea what it can be. And the interesting part is, as I said, this is just Java 21 without any external dependencies. So it's a single jar. So I hope it you can imagine. And what MCP is, maybe I should introduce that. It is basically, if you follow me for a longer time, maybe 10 years ago, I mentioned several times JCA, Java Connector architecture, on this ZMC or MCP model context protocol was implemented or was defined or created by Anthropic, and right now is this industry standard, and it is the how to call it, the interface between the LLMs or AI and the outside world. So we can wrap an existing system, a microservice, and call from AI the microservice. Okay, so I just thought it could be interesting for you. And this was my test. And I will record soon. I planned this for several weeks already, but a longer screencast, maybe 3 minutes, 5 minutes, not a short. Okay, the next feature is I accidentally got it. So if you have any questions, please ask in chat. I hope you are still online. The Zibi, this is another thing. So where is my here? So what I introduced right now is the ZMCP, and what you exactly saw is this shell script. So now next one, the Zibi. So the Zibi is a small build tool which I actually used a lot. And by the way, I use internally Zibi to build the ZMCP. Why? Because it builds in 600 milliseconds, and it doesn't understand Maven dependencies. But most of my small projects don't have any dependencies, so I don't need Maven. So I would like to show you something. So this is new. I got the idea. So if I do zb.shell, it created an executable jar where in a folder called zbo. So this is the jar. So it means if I run java -jar and then zbo and then app.jar, so you see hello airhacks. So this seems to work. But the cool story is, if I create a jar, I don't care about the class files. So I got the idea to store the class files in temporary folder. So if you do nothing, it will create the class files in a temporary folder, so I don't even have to delete this. So this was the idea, and this is a default behavior. And I like convention over configuration, but I like also to override the convention over configuration. So I thought, okay, what if Zibi will just create a configuration file? And if there's nothing, we'll just create one with the default values. And now we can say, if I really would like to have, for instance, classes, then I can write here classes. I actually never tried that. And just build this again. And now it creates into classes. So this is the idea. And the cool story is Zibi also doesn't have any external dependencies, but it uses built-in JDK tools. And this is why from time to time, you will find on my channel as a short how to compile programmatically Java C or whatever, because I play with Zibi if I have a little bit time. Okay, Zibi. There was a Zibi. Now Zibi was introduced, and now I need this. This one is fun. So this is, I think, the smallest Java project on GitHub. It's just one file. This is all you need. So, and this is an enum, error user info system warning debug, with some colors. And this is a logger which is used in Zibi. It is used in not in MCP, but in all my internal tools. And I just extracted the enum. But how to use that? So this is how you can use it. You say log error out, log user out, and so forth. And if I run it, you will see a lot of colors and exception. You see this is error user info system warning. So what this interface does, one single class, you can just copy it over to your project. You will get a nice command line, colorful output. And what this is just, it also is able to deal with exceptions. So you see it just output here the stack trace. That's all. So this is the next project. So ZCL, zero dependency, colored logger or colorful logger, or whatever you like to call it. So close that. And I think now we can start with the real content. Let's see. John asked me, is there a use case to use OpenLiberty instead of Quarkus? Would you even use OpenLiberty in production? So, John, I would use OpenLiberty in production because, Liberty is a great server. Whether Quarkus is better or not, it's different. Actually, OpenLiberty was also built exclusively for the clouds. Having said that, I use Quarkus all the time. Since before pandemic, I think it came in pandemic, so like first year in the pandemic, I think, or before that. So I switch everything to Quarkus. So for me, Quarkus is the runtime number one. But what I think, what could be interesting, if we go to, let's say we have some, actually I had students from, I think, Australia in my workshops. And what they did, actually I like the idea. So we already have here some serverless questions, but not everything has to be serverless, right? So if you have heavy load, you can save actually money with being the opposite. I don't even know how to call it, just, deploy a EC2 machine, for instance. Just a bare metal machine. And what they did is they ordered a huge one, a huge EC2 machine, and deployed a Payara on the machine, and deployed as many applications as possible. So what they did is they used the Payara's application server as a cloud to deploy multiple applications to save money. And this worked good for them. You will need 2 machines for load balancing, but you can just deploy new applications and it usually works well. So I would say this could be also an idea for Open Liberty. You cannot do this with Quarkus at all, because in Quarkus, every Quarkus would be an own process with own port. But in Open Liberty, you can have, one process and multiple applications inside. So I see rare cases where you can save a significant amount of money with that. So this would be the main use case for Open Liberty, where Quarkus would be basically unusable, because you will have to maintain several processes on the machine with several ports and several IP addresses, maybe even. John, are you happy? I hope so. Now, the first regular question is from Mr. The João Lopez. Is the João here as well? No. I thought so, that João will attend. But, Mr. R asked me, would you recommend using Java 24 in production, or would it be better to wait for Java? I would absolutely use Java 24, 23, and whatever, because all Javas are great. And the only difference is if you use Java 25, you get from most companies official support. So this is what it means. It's more like you get a better support contract for Java 25, Java 21, Java 17, and Java 11. Okay? So this is the difference. But I would use 23, 24, and 25, whatever. Now the question is, so why I'm using Java 21 on my machine, right? So because, and the reason is I'm working for larger clients. This is what I'm actually doing. What I'm doing right now is just fun. But, and all my clients are still believing in LTS. So everywhere I have Java 21. So all my projects are exclusively Java 21. And what I don't like to do is to work, in my leisure with Java 24 and then mistakenly code something which won't work on my client. So this is the only reason why I use Java 21. On my server, actually, I have the most recent Java 24, but I still, on my machine, code with Java 21. So this is because I'm a consultant, and and I'm using Corretto 21 right now in all my shorts. And if Java 25 is out there, I know Nicolas Parlock always says there's no LTS, but for me it is like maybe a small LTS, right? A vendor LTS. I will immediately switch to Java 25 then. And I will also try, to force all my clients to switch to Java 25 as well. So now, the question is how to force your clients. I mean, you cannot force the clients, but my trick is nowadays is to say, okay, look, the Java 21 is old, is not well patched. This is kind of not true, but I mean, we have to say something, right? In Java 25 is, the fresh with most fixed bugs, which is true. And this is how I get usually the freshest Java. Okay? So don't tell it anyone, but it's my strategy. So security works the best nowadays. So, but I'm really looking forward to Java 25. So I cannot wait, actually. So, okay, cool. So now the first question. And it was, So I summarize the question. It's basically a serverless Kafka consumer. How to implement that. So imagine we have AWS Lambda and we have Kafka. Does it work? How it works? And doesn't make sense or not? So first, on AWS Lambda, if it listens to MSK, this is managed serverless Kafka, I think, or a managed service Kafka or something like this. But this is Kafka on AWS MSK, you can use for managed Kafka, you can use AWS Lambda as a listener. And this AWS Lambda's listener is the same concept as AWS Lambda listener for Kinesis. So I never used Apache Kafka on AWS with Lambda. The reason being is in my projects, Kafka was always too expensive or too hard to manage. So I always prefer to use SQS, SNS, or Kinesis. But the idea is the same. And how this works is, so there's a little bit of confusion because if we mention AWS Lambda, there are two things. Is your Lambda? It is the Lambda runtime, and the Lambda runtime is very comparable to Quarkus or OpenLiberty or an application server. So what happens behind the scenes is the Lambda runtime is not our Lambda. It's the container around our Lambda polls every, I don't know, period of time the Kafka. Then it pulls an array of messages, then passes the messages to our AWS Lambda, and then commits the offset. This is how it works. And the array of messages belongs to a single partition. So you can be sure that a single listener always consumes from a single partition. And if there are multiple partitions, the Lambda runtime will start new instances. This is how it works. By the way, almost identical to message-driven beans. The only difference is in message-driven beans, there's only one message. There was no array of messages. There was no batching. So it means no messages, no costs. It's serverless because the Lambda is not invoked. You will still have to pay for the serverless MSK, which you are paying per partition, which can be quite expensive. And in my opinion, if I go to the cloud, I don't like to care about the infrastructure. So I always pick, the built-in or managed services from AWS, like SQS, SNS, or Kinesis. Right. Okay. Next question from Zhao or Hao, hard to tell. How to host UI in serverless applications? And he already hinted. This was the second question. This is what we do. This works actually perfectly. Just S3 bucket doesn't work. What you have to do is you have to have an S3 bucket, which is actually private. And this bucket is exposed to a CloudFront, and only CloudFront is able to access the bucket. And the bucket is configured, the CloudFront is configured to have a domain, and the domain is registered in Route 53. And this is how it should work. And what we gain is it is almost free. So this website hosting is actually very cheap. With CloudFront, we can get worldwide cachings, and the certificates are also very good. And we get Lambda on Edge, which sometimes is actually helpful because we can have access to the headers. That's basically it. So S3 bucket and CloudFront accesses the bucket, and there is a token which you have to set up between the S3 bucket and the CloudFront, but I never did it manually. I always use Java CDK, Cloud Development Kit, for that. So we code the entire thing and then do it once, and you have a solution. Also, my plan is to publish, because I have a lot of such constructs, Java constructs to all combinations. And if you are curious how the CDK look like, what is this? This is not airhacks. It should be. And if you go to this AWS Quarkus Lambda CDK plane and go to the CDK folder, you will find a couple of possibilities, because what this already ships with is ALB API Gateway CloudFront. This is, for instance, already CloudFront, but this CloudFront accesses Lambda, not as free bucket. Function URL, and yeah. Okay, so I think we covered Zhao's questions completely. So now, fun topic. This is really fun because this is our time machine. So I'm looking 100 episodes back, and I got a question: best technology to distribute master data diffs. And we still have the problem that we have master data caches and how to update them. And yeah, in a Java project, Infinispan is. I hope I answered this back then, so I forgot to look it up. Course and access control expose headers, which is, by the way, a thing in the CloudFront and S3 distribution. You also have to configure the course and access control headers. Also cool, how to implement token-based authentication in Java EE. So right now, so the answer changed, because if you are in the cloud, we never implement this in the cloud because it's implemented for us. For instance, the API gateway or the application load balancer can do this. They are communicating with the OAuth provider. They fetch the token and pass the token to Quarkus. Quarkus uses a microprofile JWT, and we are done. So it is easier than 8 years before. And if you really would like to have OAuth, application servers can also provide that. But this is not cloud, because the idea of the cloud is you only focus on business logic and forget the entire plumbing. Monitoring Java applications in production with Pretty UI. So, and I have actually two answers to that, which are John. So the cool story is chat has also always priority. And chat asked me, View Transition API, yet what's your opinion on it? So View Transition API is a new web standard API, which is supported, I think, in all browsers right now. And I really like it. So the actually have to build it into my template. I have the BCE template, which I, by the way, updated last week to our newest lit HTML and so forth. But a View Transition API helps you to transition, for instance, during navigation from one view to another. So you can apply you can apply let's say animations. So yeah, I like it. Just use it. And right now, I would say there is what I see is for years I never understood why we need so many frameworks in the web, and this is recognized by lots of web developers right now. And I think right now people in JavaScript they begin to question: do we really need so many dependencies, and do we really need so many frameworks? So golden times for web standards. Firefox not yet, but John, I think Firefox is just 2% of the market right now, which is a pity. But yeah, but I like View Transition API, and also like what happens in CSS. Like now is really crazy. We even get if statements in CSS, believe it or not. Okay, so monitoring Java application production. So so now I will tell you something which you probably won't believe. So first, in the cloud, I don't use Prometheus anymore, because Prometheus on AWS is not available as, how to call it, as not managed service. There is a managed Prometheus, and out-of-the-box service, how to call it. So because if we, let's say, application load balancer, or let's say API gateway, CloudFront, the servers are just there. I only have to DynamoDB. It's already running, and I just create a new table and I'm done. And Prometheus, I actually have to provision and run it, and it could be expensive. And if I have Prometheus, but Prometheus has to access, my endpoints and so forth. So what I do instead on AWS, I use EMF, embedded metrics format. And if you're logging in with this format, CloudWatch Metrics recognizes the format as a metrics, and I'm basically done. And the UI is not pretty, it's okay. But if you would like to have pretty UI with some tricks, you can export the entire thing to QuickSight, and then you get really pretty UI. Now, this is in the cloud. On premise, I was this year in some projects, and we discussed what to do Kubernetes on-premise. Because from my perspective, Kubernetes in private cloud is great on-premise. In public cloud, I don't understand why you need Kubernetes, but on-premise you have nothing. So either you can run, Docker or Podman or Kubernetes, OpenShift, for instance. There's nothing in between, I would say. Docker Compose. So we also use Docker Compose actually successfully. But what do you do on premise, right? So this is like a cliffhanger almost. There is a Java mission control and there is Java flight recorder. And what you can do is you can activate the Java flight recorder events, which only is possible, for instance, in Kubernetes or in containers, or because on serverless you have not access to the machine, right? And the Java flight recorder can emit events all the time. And then you can have really pretty UI, like this mission control is one, or JProfiler. So Ingo was on my podcast recently, which is also really nice UI for events. And you can access then with no overhead all the JVM events. Plus, it is really easy to write your own business events, and you can react to these events. And I think if you have Java, this is the easiest possible way, to have nicer monitoring with Java. Okay. Now, Christian asked me, so many web standards, let's get a new one to standardize them all. No, because the web standards are independent from each other. For instance, the web components do not, intersect with something different. So the view transition API, there is nothing comparable, or maybe it is, I don't know, but it is like a standalone feature. And if you use frameworks, the frameworks are using all the features behind the scenes anyway. So you will have to learn them or know about them at least. So for me, this is easier just to go MDN, Mozilla Developer Network, and learn. Let's see how easy it is. But if we search for MDN and then view transition, then we get the view transition API. And here it is. It looks like JavaDoc. Document start view transitions, and usually they have even some browser compatibility. And on Android, Firefox on Android is not available. And here in Nightly is available. So Nightly is actually a good sign. So it means, yeah. And but what they did, they have usually articles, and this is the view transition API. Right? And this is how it looks like. And I would say just copy and paste to your web components and you have it in place. But if I would use framework, the question is, am I able to do that with React, for instance? Do I have access to the DOM element or whatever? So I would say for me, standards are way easier to use. And I like vacations, free time, to have some, because I like to code Java. And with standards, this is the best trick ever, because the standards are not moving like crazy, and or not evolving like crazy. So if you learn standard once, you only learn incrementally. So that's my hack. So okay, but you see, this is not so many standards, so many tabs. So we need a new one. This is exactly. So many tabs. Let's create a new one not to standardize them all, but to keep track of them all. So, cool. Quarkus. So, we were with PrettyEye, tenant-dependent entity manager. So this is pretty simple. You can but another topic. So what we do, for instance, in the cloud right now in almost all projects, we create a dedicated account for a client. So we don't like to be multi-tenant, interestingly. Why? Because we get on the full isolation. So there is impossible that one client sees the data from other clients, is the complete security, for instance. Then service discovery and Java is 7. So service discovery, for that, the sidecars back then were very. I got always the question: do you use sidecars on Kubernetes? But recently, I found a use case for them is for short-lived tokens on Kubernetes, because so what happened to me? this year I had to review some Kubernetes installations, and clients ask me, what's your opinion about our architecture? When I look at this, okay, you have a data center, you have Kubernetes, but we cannot argue that we are secure in our data center because we're in a data center and cloud is insecure. And in cloud we have short-lived tokens. We can automate certificate rotation, so everything is automated and highly secure. And on premise, some companies don't even have HTTPS, right, in data center. I say, okay, so let's try at least to achieve the security of our public cloud. So, and this was the idea of sidecars, where I didn't use the sidecars for service discovery. We use them to generate short-lived tokens. So Hatios links with JAX-RS, this was a huge topic back then. Today, I would say, people start to questioning REST, and they say, okay, why not GraphQL or whatever? And GraphQL is dead already, is no more as popular as it was before. So the JAX-RS Hatios links was the idea that if we return an object, there are links inside the object, and if the links are used, you are navigating to the next thing. So, like for instance, we have pagination, so you will have a link next, and if someone uses the link, it will automatically paginate. Okay. Ideas to improve your career? Yes, use standards so you have more free time and learn as much as you can. It's fun. So, solutions for mobile applications for Java EE services. Mobile applications. So we still have. We had a conversation today, and my feeling is that Swing and JavaFX, don't call me crazy, but they could come back. Why? Swing is actually very fast and looks nice. So it with look and feel. So I had, for instance, this J profiler looks really nice. Today is a podcast for you. It will be published soon. With Ingo about JClasslib. You can try it actually. It's called JClasslib. It's actually a cool project with 3,000 stars. And it is implemented in Swing, and it looks nice, and it is fast. And so what can happen, I think, is, and also, back then, as I remember, the Swing apps were huge. We had hundreds of panels, big tables, filtering, or whatever. And I think what can happen right now is the apps are actually smaller, but we have more of them. So I wouldn't be surprised if Swing would get a little bit more attention because a part of JDK is actually fun to implement. And if the API or the apps are not too complex, it could be actually a good idea to use them out of the box for some applications. What I say is sidecar, not sidecar, so side. So a side. The cars is a side of the application. Sorry. And IntelliJ uses Swing. There are lots of Swing apps. CyberDark, I think, is Swing. So there are lots of great Swing apps, which looks perfect. And sorry, sidecars. Jens, so close. Jens Zoklos, by the way, is a cool name. So, JClasslib, and we were here. Context resolver is lesser known in JAX-RS. What you can do is you can implement dependency injection in sub resources. No one talks about this anymore. Naming for load balanced microservices. This was cool because back then we implemented we implemented load balancer with Nginx or HR proxy, and the problem was, of course, we need two names for the services and how to name them. So it's gone because how JTA transactional implemented under the hood. This is with threads. This is an interesting part. So, and it's still useful. To know how it works. So a thread is marked as a transactional. I guess in thread local we get an attribute, and with virtual threads there is a scope, and then it's done. The interesting part is if you access a database or JMS or whatever, they are reacting to the JTA signals, I would say. So on commit, they flush their caches to a store, and on rollback, they delete the caches. So this is basically how it works. So two-phase commit is a little bit evolved, but the JTA transactions actually pretty simple because they are bound to a thread. What's harder to implement is the transactional resource. Okay, this basically was, this maybe plain Java's E without Java E. I use this more and more. Let's see whether I will find the terminal. This is the template with web components, and if I go to app source, I think I'm right here. So this, what I have here is card. So, and I would like to take a look on that. You see, this is a plain Java. This is one file, no dependency, not even compiled. So I will launch the server, and it is going to be compiled. This is my GitHub account, not Git, Git remote. So, this is the template, but the Zero-Dependencies web server is on also a GitHub project. But if I launch it, I can. Oh, that's interesting. So usually it works better. It's no dependency. Java is in a Quarkus, so it even starts faster than Quarkus because I don't need it. So I think what's changed with Java 17, I would say, it became really a complete platform. So you don't need a lot actually. You can be happy with just plain Java. And actually today I had a session with a client and we discussed a little bit the advantages of Java. And what we forget as Java developers is please talk about new Java native programming features. So I don't know what you mean by that. So it's like what we can translate Java to native or native Java programming features. I mean, file access, virtual threads. You can have process builder to start external tools. We have we get JSON very soon. We have properties to store configuration. We have preferences, which stores in Windows registry or on Mac. I don't know how that's called, the plist files exactly. So I would say, it's this complete platform. It is really easy to implement something with Java. So this is, and tooling is great. So this is why I use Java a lot for everything actually. And today with my clients, so we had a discussion. So we are Java developers, and we actually forgot how easy we can install Java, right? So to install Java, you basically download a zip, extract it, and you are done. And if you would like to run Java in production, you can use JLink and say, I only interested in the 3 modules. I don't like to have Swing, for instance. So you get Java without Swing in production. And just compare it to Node.js or Python. I mean, this is way easier and more secure because you are not polluting the entire machine. It's just your local Java environment, which also changed, right? We also had today the chat with Ingo and from JProfiler, and we said, okay, back then, we had one Java on the entire machine, and now the apps are shipping with embedded Java, which is independent Java islands, if you will. And so this is the first benefit, and the other benefit of Java, of course, is crazy fast. So if you compare the Java performance with Ruby, Python, or Node.js, it is orders of magnitude faster. Okay, this was that. Next one, and this was I performed a talk, DevOps Stage Conference, also my YouTube channel, and I got a very good question. And this is why even use Quarkus? Because the talk was about serverless Java, and I think what I did then, I deployed Quarkus. Have you tried doing only raw Java inside Lambda? This should be the standard. Why do we need a framework around the code inside Lambda? So, and this is excellent question, But so a short explanation. What actually happens behind the scenes is that the Lambda runtime is not called. This is different. If you have if you start Quarkus, Quarkus launches a small HTTP server, web server, receives all the HTTP requests, and they are routed to your JAX-RS, right? So this is not the case on Lambda. So the Lambda runtime is sleeping, so nothing happens there, and we have API gateway, we have function URL, we can have application load balancer, and they are receiving the HTTP request first. And they are converting the HTTP request to a JSON event, and this JSON event is passed to AWS Lambda, and this AWS Lambda wakes up and passes the JSON to Quarkus. And Quarkus parses efficiently this JSON and invokes our JAX-RS runtime. So if I would eliminate Quarkus, I would have to implement like Node.js and Python or servlets in 1995. If get do this, if post do this, and so forth, right? We did it at the beginning of Java, and this is no more required. And the cool story is I can use the same Quarkus application and deploy it at the same time on EC2 machine or container and Lambda. So no changes to my business logic. Okay, now next one. Enum implementing an interface. What's the use case? So this is an interesting one, and I got a comment to my short. I don't understand the use case. Why an enum should implement an interface? So okay, and I will talk about FFM in a second. So, but I had the following problem is infrastructure as code, CDK in the cloud. I had a set of infrastructural accounts. They were always there because there was like imagine monitoring account, logging account, account where the software releases are stored, and I knew all the accounts, and they were the account IDs and the responsibility of the account were stored in enums, right? And for me, it was like a specific type of enum was infrastructural enum. On the other hand, I had like the client accounts, and the client accounts were accounts which they shipped with the name of the client. And for me, it was a different category, it was logically different because the first was like my infrastructure, and the other accounts the client accounts used the infrastructure. So, and how I modeled that, everything was an enum. It was very similar. Everything had an ID. The client accounts had other fields, and my accounts had other fields. But at the end of the day, the infrastructure as code only needed the account ID. It was not interested in my stuff. Just give me, please, the account ID. And what I did is the both enums, which were stored in different packages, implemented the same interface, and I could generate the policies and so forth with a single interface. So this is the use case. And even crazier, in another project, I do similar stuff. Plus, I implemented Java records on top of that, because Java records implemented the same interface as enums. So if a new account was provisioned, I could actually pick the account number and create the Java record on the fly and treat a Java record as a dynamic enum. Crazy, but works in infrastructure as code. So FFM, so foreign function memory. I recorded a short about that, and it is already published, and it's fun to work with FFM. So what you get, I think it's called Stage. A little bit confused because in my current project I'm also using Stage in infrastructure as code, but I think it's called Scene or Stage. This is like the memory stage, I guess. And the cool story is, if you would like to call C and you have the struct, you are basically done. So you don't have to generate, with Java H was it, the header files, you can just call a C and you are basically done. So this is a real fun to work with FFM. Yeah. Christian asked me, how do you make sure that your Quarkus app scales in the cloud and on-prem as well? What means scales? I mean, in Lambda, it scales perfectly. So it just scales until it reaches the account limit, which is 1,000 instances, which would mean in my projects, I would get 2,000 gigabyte of RAM and 1,000 CPUs. And then I will have to increase the limit. So this is the scaling. And on-prem, it depends what I'm using, right? But I didn't even mean that. So with this approach, what I could do is I could have one application load balancer, and then Quarkus deployed as AWS Lambda, and Quarkus deployed in container, and Quarkus deployed in EC2 machine, and the load balancer will distribute the load to all three. And I could decide, on a heavy load, go to EC2 machine, at night go to Lambda, and everyone else goes to sleep, or I can have on Christmas pre-warm some Lambda, so I have exactly the same code, right? And I could, of course, have the same code deployed as Lambda in the cloud and on-premise in whatever you have, Kubernetes. What I mean is that I can just start tons of pods, use Quarkus messaging to sync them. Was that different on-prem? I don't know whether it's different, because it seems like pods, it means you have Kubernetes in the cloud, and on-premise, Kubernetes is more common than in the cloud. So whatever you do in the cloud, you could do the same on-premise, but I never synced Quarkus with messaging. So what I will do is, if you really have to sync something, I would use DynamoDB, for instance, or S3, or something, a common storage, but not sync from Quarkus to Quarkus, right? You could also use Redis, for instance, available everywhere. You have to pay for it, but it is often used for games, leaderboards, and stuff like that. So I think we made it. So ZMCP was already introduced. Well, no comments about ZMCP. I thought it was a cool demo, and you were quiet because you waited for Quarkus for the cool stuff, I know. But from time to time, I also have to show, a little bit of AI. But this was a little bit boring. But next time, we won't talk about AI anymore and focus, on the hot stuff like, for instance, Java EE and WebSphere and Payara, Glassfish, and the really hot stuff these days. Okay. No questions. So I would say thank you for watching. Oh, and by the way, thank you for the registration. It's incredible. But I forgot to mention something, but we'll do next time. So this course will be interesting. So it's how to build great applications with AI, not for AI, but as a developer. And both workshops will take place because there are already sufficient registrations. So which is pretty cool. It's like I will close this a little bit earlier, but yeah. So greetings to Paraguay. Christian, I hope you are happy with my explanation. So you do something specific, but if you have Kubernetes in the cloud, you can do the same on premise. And yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you next time, and bye.